Howdy folks, it's Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness, and we are back to doing channel business. This is an unboxing of the Epic Battle of Alesia. This is Worthington Games. This was originally published by Avalon Hill. Actually, there's a version before that Avalon Hill picked up and fully developed, and this is supposedly a somewhat slight reimagining. There's supposed to be some changes. I'm not exactly sure what, but from the weight of this box, there is, I don't know if there's cards in addition to maps, in addition to the counters. I don't know if it's a bigger map than originally or what, but this is a heavy box. So let me go ahead and get the shrink off. And the shrink is off. So let's take a little look at the back here. Let's zoom out a bit so you can see the whole thing, and then let's zoom in on some of the details down here. Let's go down here, zoom in even more. Here we go. So I'm going to start over here. Game components, giant mounted game board. So obviously they made it bigger, probably hopefully with bigger hexes. 4 counter sheets, 1 die, just 1, 2 rule books, off-board chart, 2 player aids, and a counter tray, built-in counter tray. That's nice. All right, over here we can see it's about in the middle of complexity, low to high, and the solitaire suitabilities roll. And the reason is, at least in the original game, it's because of this. You've got galls that are moving around. So if you're not familiar with this Battle of Alesia, it's a town in Gaul where the Gaul leader, great leader of the Gaelic forces, Vercingetorix, he had a force of about, I think it was about 40,000, between 30 to 50,000, holed up in this town, and the Romans came up with about a like number of troops, 50,000-ish, and they surrounded the town and started to do siege to it. Well, a whole bunch of more Gauls came in, and I think it's definitely more than 100,000, maybe closer to 150,000, maybe even more, were coming in. And so what Caesar did was perform a defensive, so there was defensive works facing the Gauls in Alesia to keep them trapped in there. So there was, wooden palisades and forts, and they had, various siege bolt throwers and various other siege engines. And then hearing that the Gauls were coming, they made an outer breastwork. And so it was basically a donut with the Romans in the middle, the creamy center of Vercingetorix and his folks, and then the Gauls. So they call it a double encirclement. The Romans are encircling the inside Gauls, the outside Gauls are circling the Romans, and these guys would, try to attack from different places. And so this off-board chart, which is not visible right now, the little ding-a-ding. The off-board chart is a place to keep track of where the hidden movement of the Gauls are that are surrounding and moving around. And so the Romans don't know where they're going to be attacking from next. And so obviously the Romans can't be strong everywhere, right? And so they have to decide where to try to defend, and the potential that the Gauls inside Alesia will coordinate and try to attack out, sally forth, sortie out. All right, so I am going to start to unpack this. What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take everything out of the box first, off camera, and then I'll start looking at things in certain order. So, uno momento. Right, so the contents have been removed from the box. There's the lid and the bottom of the box there. 2 very thick sections of mounted map. We're not going to look at them first just because they're going to be big and huge. we'll take a look at them last. So we will go for more eye candy first. We're going to do the counter sheets, but first we're going to quickly, here's the 2 player aids. Very big, easy to read. Combat Result Shock, Occupied Fort Missile Fire, Archers and Slingers. Here is a terrain effects chart, the way I like it. Here's the key showing the kind of terrain, the name of it, the movement effects, all in one place. All in one place. Pila is plural of pilum. So this is the javelin, the spear / javelin that the Romans can throw, and a defensive works. So these are both the same. Each player gets one. So that was one part. I'm going to stack it over here. Let me show you this real quick. This was that off map movement area here. So as we can see, there's 10 different spaces around Alesia. Each zone, the Gauls can say where there is now. I'm sure this is like a turn track, and like say assault 1, assault 2. I'm not sure exactly if I don't remember the significance of that in the original game, and so that's fine. But okay, so we'll set that aside. So let's go ahead and look at counters. There are 4 counter sheets. These are pre-rounded counters. Now I'm going to zoom in even more, like way zoom in, to look at some of these guys. Okay, gotta not be too far in or they won't focus. All right. There, that's readable, more readable. Okay. So the green are relief forces. The blue up here are the besieged forces. All right. I'm not sure if those are types of units or tribal names or what that is on these guys. So they're just two numbers, and I can show you right here real quick. Strength points, movement points, and if it's a missile unit, it has something in there. So like a slinger. Not sure what the P is. Oh, P for pilum. Right. A for an archer. So here on these Gaelic forces, we see 0 ranged units at all. That doesn't mean they don't have any. They don't have any on this counter sheet. So let's look. Oh, goodness. We've got tons more relief force. Here's a whole. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit so we can take a peek at the whole thing. So here's an entire another sheet 2 is more relief forces. And I'm taking a quick gander. Wow. Looks like they have nada there for range dudes. They had no equivalent of slingers or archers or that. So I particularly wasn't aware of that the Gauls were pure melee. I would have assumed that they had some kind of range. Maybe in the context at this scale, maybe they have some, throwing axes or something, a real short range. But in terms of combat at the scale we're talking about here, they do not appear to have ranged combat units. All right, so we have 2 more sheets here. There's a little bit more on the top for the relief forces, cavalry units. So those don't have a lot of strength points too, but 10 movement. And of course, we've got Roman forces in the red. Various legions. Every legion has the P at the pilum attack. You saw from the chart, it wasn't super powerful. Didn't have a great chance of doing damage, but So most of these are 5, 6s. Some of these are 6, 6s. You can see here. So certain legions are better. Ooh, here's a 9 strength point one. And of course, leaders here, you got Caesar, which they have a movement allowance. They don't have any rating. They obviously help command move guys to move better, faster, make morale checks, or get a combat bonus or something. But there's not a number on there. And then we have the last of the 4 counter sheets. Oh, one counter has fallen out. This fort. So, yep, you can see how nice and rounded they are. And it goes back in. Battle rages. So I'm assuming that means the battle rages on, not like Berserk Rage. So this means in a particular battle, it's going to keep going. You're engaged and take it. Not sure what the 1, 2, 4 is. Assault, turn. So fortification marker. So there's lots of, fortification works, ramparts on the map, but these are extra forts to place particular places. All right, so let's see here. Here's some archers. Not real strong. 1 strength point worth. Slingers. Auxiliary melee troops. Roman cavalry. More so. So it looks like every single unit for the Romans, they're all... These legionaries are all carrying their pilums. They can throw pilums. Cavalry doesn't have any range, obviously. And then they got some auxiliary troops that doesn't have any range. And then slingers and archers. And they have some Numidians, which are faster foot guys, not super strong. But they have a 7 as opposed to the 6 for the legionaries or the auxiliaries. All right, so there we go. That's the counter mix. Now I'm going to show you the rule books. There is indeed 2 rule books. They're identical. So, one for each player. So you have a player aid card, the combat results table, the trade effects chart and stuff. And then these, so there's not a separate rule book and, playbook. So these 12 pages. Nice color. It's glossy and it's not too overly shiny. So again, we have another copy of the trade effects chart on the back again, the way I like it, everything in one place. Unit types, explanation of the different units. Nice, a partial piece of the map, but showing what things are. Inner walls, the walled city itself, Alesia, an outer wall, a camp, off-board entrance zones, a zone. So there's going to be a little black line between zones. So they're not actually showing multiple zones, but there's a zone. And so here's a divider. And so somewhere over here, there'll be another divider between the various zones, measured with Roman numerals, of course. How to set up. Okay, so the game consists of 2 assaults that each last 12 turns, up to 12 turns. So that's why that turn chart had assault, 12, assault is like, okay, there's 2 major assaults, days worth. Once the relieving force is attacking, it's a big brouhaha. And you have 2 days worth of fighting of up to 12 turns per day. Okay, we got our sequence of play, zones of control. So it's a standard that way. You've got zone of control, 6 surrounding hexes. I'm not going to go through in depth on here. Movement bonuses. Talk about moving along the walls that you can get a bonus. Stacking. I'm curious. Roman may stack up to 3. The Gauls may stack up to 2. Okay, so the Romans have that advantage of their coordination and their training, being able to more effectively coordinate at close quarters. No Roman unit may ever move adjacent to or enter the town of Alesia. Right. Off-board chart. Shock combat, so melee. Start in zone of control. You must attack those exerting zone of control. All right. multiple unit shock combat, resolving shock combat, retreat and advance. A little bit about multiplayer games, like some teams. Gallic attack coordination. Okay, so the besieged guys cannot come out of the town of Alesia until a certain number of Gallic units are on or have crossed the defensive works. So they have to have penetrated to a certain point. They have to be able to see that, aha, there they are. We're not leaving the safety of the town until we have that potential. Leaders. Missile fire. Roman archers, slingers, cohorts, and Roman occupied forts may use missile fire. Only the Romans. So yeah, so no missile fire at all for the Gallic forces. All right. Disruption. You can be disrupted by missile fire. Okay, it makes you flip over and you may not attack that turn. The defensive works, the forts, the walls, how to win. So you got to get basically Vercingetorix out the town and off the map, period. If he does that, they win because the Gallic revolt keeps going. Otherwise, the Roman unit moves any combat unit adjacent to Vercingetorix any time. He eliminates Vercingetorix with missile fire or prevents them moving off the board. They win. So the Romans either have to hold on and not let him get off, or can get up and eliminate him early. Okay, some samples of play. They're little tiny ones. Talking about terrain in a camp, a wall, 2 wall examples. Just showing 2 units, each of those. Some more here, 3 units. Ooh, complicated 4-unit example. River retreat example. That's interesting. All right, so, and then you talk about a little bit about strategy, and then that was one back. So the rules don't look too long. They seemed much more intimidated way back when I had the Avalon Hill version. So I don't know if they tidied it up, made things a little simpler. Okay, so now we're gonna. Oh, before we look at the map, I'm gonna pause and open it up before we do that. There is a counter tray. It's rather a deep counter tray. It's an interesting design. I believe these counters are intended to be put up standing on their end vertically, like that. Now, it's interesting that there's this big open pit in the middle. There are no cards for this game. There's only 1 die. There's not a bunch of dice. There's not cards. So if all those those counters can fit here, then you just have extra space, or maybe, certain units, you just put all the forts in here or something, and all the, engaged battle rages or something, you could put them there. It would be nice if that's the intention, baggies, but we'll see if everything fits along with it. Now, it is deeper. It fits like it's kind of cool. The only thing, it doesn't snap on. It doesn't click. It doesn't. So this could easily spill them all out and all over the go. They designed a new counter tray, which is cool. They should have gone to that little extra effort to make it so that it snug fit. Worthington in the future, if you update your trays, please do that. Okay, so I'm gonna get a map open here. Un momento. All right, and we're zoomed out all the way, and it's still a little bit off the edge. And this is just one of the 2 boards. So yeah, that's how big it is. This is a kitchen table. So I don't know exactly the dimensions of it. Well, let me go get a ruler. Right, so I got my 18-inch ruler here, and I measured it. It's 18 plus 4. That's the standard 22, and 18 in there, plus 16, boom, boom, 34. It's a standard 22 by 34-inch map. There are 2 of those. These are 1-inch wide hexes. So instead of half-inch hexes like in the original with little tiny units, we have much easy to maneuver and all that. And the only thing is, yeah, you're gonna need your full table to put this out. Obviously, the other half's over there, because here's Alesia here. Part of that, and the bulk of Alesia is off there. This is called Riamont. I can't read what that says there. Some kind of camp or something, but I can't read it from this distance. Okay, down here you can see this is like zone 2. I'm going to tilt and whirl. Zone 1. Zone 10. So they're going around that way clockwise, ending up in 10 there. All right. So there are streams. There's these works. These, I guess these are slopes, like the dirt. So this is all a raised portion here. With obviously certain areas, these are being, like natural hills here, but they made the earthworks here and here. That's quite an engineering feat, of course. That's the Romans. Yeah. So before I whip out the other half of the map, there was also this in here. This is like a privacy board. My guess is when you're doing setup, maybe you block it off and you're setting up your units or something, and so you're not seeing what the other guy's doing. Something like that, so you can have a little bit of a privacy there. So there's some surprise on exactly where the strongest setup is, etc. So that's an assumption, which is typically what these are for, but there's absolutely no data on here, no chart or anything. It's just artwork. Pretty cool, pretty darn cool. All right, so let me get out that other map. I'll be back. All right, so here it is. So this would just be slid that side of the map that's underneath here right now, because here's the edge. So we saw what was here, the little part of Alesia, and here's the big thing here. Actually, have the name, the Oz River, or Oza. Not sure if you pronounce the ending E. It's upside down. Rabutin River, something like that. This is the Bussy Mont. So this whole thing here is a big hill or plateau. Off this side here, that's a Flaveny Mont, and I can't read that. Penel Mont, something like that over here. So, the fortification works are a little more complicated here. Remember, because these are like little towers, and there's the palisades with a nice running pathway on the top. So they would shift troops. So it's interesting, this sort of lattice work of stuff here. I am surprised there's not more, say, connections between these. That for them to quickly move, some of these near connective points here, say here to here, etc. Maybe I gotta see here. You can see that here, like here to here, something like that. Because this is this idea of back and forth and connect. Maybe they shouldn't have time. Maybe they're planning on doing more of those things. So yeah, very nice looking maps. I just opened it up and maybe did that for 2 seconds. So it's lying pretty flat. Remember, there's two on top of each other. So yeah, I did get those board game Butler little plastic things that you can put on the the edge of a board to help hold it straight, but these look like they'll be pretty good. I like the coloring. I mean, you can see a little bit of shine light here, but it's not super glary. I do not like super gloss. I do not like that much glare and eye strain and all that stuff. These look really nice. So yeah, I'm excited for this. This and being able to see, like from a distance, I can't read some of those things, but again, the names of the rivers and the little hills are not that important. But if I was sitting next to it, I'd be able to read them. But in terms of overall readability of the counters, enough room, for the counters in the hex and all that, and your stacking is 2 or 3 high. Plus you can have those other marks like engaged and battle rages and things like that, so it can be a little higher, but maybe a fort marker in there, so it could be 3 Romans and a fort marker or something. It's not super high stacks. Yeah, this looks really exciting. So this is Meandering Mike in the Man Cave of Madness. We've been presenting you. Let me pull this closer. Alesia, here. Again, it's from Worthington Games. It's a remake, deluxifying the components. I'm gonna make a guess that they've probably simplified the rules a little bit, given that there's just 12 pages. So I am really excited. And this came out really quickly. The Kickstarter for this was scheduled for August, and Worthington Games has been hedging their bets a little bit, and usually a month, sometimes 2, where they've been making their dates early. Well, this is the beginning of May, and this wasn't supposed to be due until August, so it's full 3 months or more, ahead of time. So that's really nice that they were able to get that in so quickly. So, Epic Battle of Alesia. So, Meandering Mike, Man Cave of Madness, thank you for viewing. We are back into channel business. I will be having a vacation report card. I was, taking a couple weeks off from doing channel stuff, but I was playing lots of different kind of games, all sorts. So I'm going to have a little report, and if you want to just see the kind of stuff that I do, keep an eye out for that. So remember, take care of your games, and they will take care of you. Ciao, y'all.